Well, so that actually, thank you for saying that too, because that's actually most of the, I mean, aside from the fact people seem to like him and his voice and all that, but the feedback that they most appreciated seemed to be about the fact that he explained things. And the truth is, it's really important, right? It's really important. It's hard to do that when you're the established service leader because there's an expectation that things move at a certain pace and stuff. But that's why it's so nice to have an occasional variant, right? Is that you have an opportunity to, like, you know, first of all, get a different perspective, but also he's an educator by trade. That's his whole thing. So, you know, and that's the class that I was teaching, and I'll get back to teaching on Friday, all about that. You know, it's really just trying to, you know, explain the service, because otherwise you take it for granted, right? We just kind of move through it methodically. So I will give him all of this feedback, and if you ever have negative feedback, you can tell me that too. I think, you know, our sort of long-standing joke is that, you know, his retirement plan is he'll get a job on one of those cruise ships. You know, he's actually once, like, you know, get hired for high holidays, they'll give you a couple weeks. Oh, yeah. And I think he showed the videos from Morocco, right? That was what he was, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that again is a trip that we're going to take with him as soon as we can realistically do it, because, you know, like, that's a fraction of the stories that he's gathered over the years and the people he's met. It's like, how you doing? I'm doing well. I always get so quiet here right before the service. No, and I promise you, I'm not checking my phone for fun. I'm just making sure our streaming is working. I think at this point we can, you and I can be coming. They're far enough. You all know the concert tomorrow night, right? So you can watch it here in the space, or you can watch it online, 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. Okay? For tomorrow, so long as you've sent the vaccination stuff in, you're welcome to just come. We'll be happy to have you. I heard that person before. Right. Keelan, how you doing? Yeah. It's a little hotter in the wings, for sure. All right. So, Cantor, I think everything looks like it's online. Hopefully you see us okay. Shabbat shalom, everyone. So, this evening we're going to get started, I think, first with our candle lighting, and then, yeah. So I'm going to light candles, and you're welcome to join the Cantor in singing the blessing on page 120.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. We'll turn now to page 128 for our opening song, Yedid Nefesh, the third one down from the very top of the page. Turn now to page 130, the very top, as we begin Kabbalat Shabbat together, Psalm 95.
וקדמה פניי לתודה בזמירות נערייה לו עיניי
Now on page 131, Psalm 96, beginning in the middle of the page. Turn now to Or Zarua on page 132, the last Hebrew paragraph at the bottom of the page. Turn now to page 134 at the very top, Zamru Ladonai.
Zamru Ladonai
page 135, Romamu, the last Hebrew paragraph in the middle of the page. We'll turn now to page 138 for L'Chadodi. A reminder, we're going to do the first, second, fifth, and ninth paragraphs. And for the last one, we'll rise and we'll face the door that we just came in. We'll wave hello to the Brombergs at the channel while we do. Okay, page, again, 138, very top of the page. We'll turn now to page 140.
Shabbat, צדיק אדוני יפרח, כארץ בבנון יזכה. שתולים בבית אדוני, בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו. עוד ינובו מסביבה, דשנים ועננים יהיו, להגיד כי אשר אדוני צורי, ולא תמות.
We'll turn now to page 144 for the Chatzi Kaddish.
יתקדש מרבה, אלמדי ואחירותי וימלך מלכותי, חייכונו,
יומכונו,
חיי לכל בן ישראל,
ישראל,
בגלה, בזמן קריב, ויאמרו אמן.
ישמרה
אבא מברך, לעולם ומעמי,
יתברך,
יתברך וישבח, ויתפאר ודרמה וינסה, ויתהדר, ויתהלל, ויתהלל, שמלך ורשע בריחו, לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירה מעלמה, ויאמרו אמן.
We rise as we turn to page 146 for the Baruch Hu, and we face east.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Marechu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam ha'ed.
Please be seated. We'll turn now to page 149. We'll read in English together at the very top of the page. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows.
Aviram u'mevi laila, u'mavdil ben yom u'ben laila, Adonai tzevot shemo, el chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Ariv haravim.
On page 150.
Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael.
to page 152 for the Shema.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Please join me on page 154. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Please join me on the top of page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. As we turn to page 158. And we'll turn to Hashkivenu on page 161 or 160 this week? 160.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom le'amidenu shomreinu lechayim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom le'amidenu shomreinu lechayim Salenu
page 162. Shomer at the very top of the page. Everyone to rise in body or spirit as we turn to page 164. Begin the Amidah together on that page, and then we'll continue silently. Please, as always, go at your own pace, and when you're finished, you may be seated. now to page 371 as we offer our Misha Berach this evening. We'll begin by thinking of those on our Misha Berach list: Chana Ruth Bat Sarah, Roberta Kyle, Jeff Baker, David Tosher, Jim Cohn, Monique Renee Banks Rathbun, Lindsay Epstein, Dolores Michka, Sylvia Orn, Yerachmiel Ben Hinda, Paloma Chauhan, Samuel Moskowitz, Chaim Leib, Joyce Weinberg, Rick Gold, Stu Pollack, Jane London, Catherine Guarino, Emunah Chava, Judy Stern, Miriam Cornfield, Raz Brody, Chana Ruth Bat Sarah, Fagel Tzipora Bat Elisheva, Elisheva Bat Sarah, Richard Gambino, Michelle Sawicki, Idol Basha Bat Yitzchak, Tzvi Menachem and Chaim, Rivka Bat Devora, Amy and Gavin Tucker, Janice Kurz, David Dowling, Israel Ben Yitzchak, Ben Sion Ben Moshe, Lorraine Danis, Buddy Kosoff, Shelley Newmark, David Kyle Klopman, Rivka Bat Rachel, Sarah Bat Chana, Moshe Eliezer Ben Sivia, Peretz Ben Yehuda, Leah Bat Naomi, and Gedalia Ben Leah. If you're thinking of anyone this evening and you'd like to share their names, we're going to start on this side of the room and work towards the back, and then this side of the room and towards the back. And of course, to invite those watching at home to share names now out loud. So if you do have names to share here, just please raise a hand so I make sure I acknowledge everyone. We'll turn now to page again, 371, and we'll follow the cantor in the Misha Berach in the middle of the page. Everyone, I think you can take a seat when you're ready. So I'll be frank from the outset that for those that know and those that we don't know, unfortunately, Lou, my wife's my mother-in-law, passed away late last week. So as you can imagine, I didn't exactly have a lot of time, or as they say in Hebrew, the koach, the strength, to study and prepare as I normally would. But I did want to share just a little teaching this evening, and really actually something of a new reflection on something that I've actually taught before. It's a quote from Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel. I know none of you will be surprised to hear that, but from one of his lesser-known works, which is really actually a collection of essays that he titled The Insecurity of Freedom, Essays on Human Existence. You can still find this, I think, in print in a handful of places, but it's harder to find these days than I think it used to be. And really it reflects a collection of essays that he wrote over a period of time from the 1950s through the 1960s. And it covers a wide range of things. But in it is a quote that actually my father taught me many, many years ago and has been quite meaningful for him. And in both of our cases, we've taught it in a very broad sort of reflection on society in the way that I think Heschel probably intended it. But as you'll hear in a moment, it certainly struck a more resonant chord for me personally in the last, not just the last week, but really for months now as Audrey's health, declined. And so Heschel says the following. He says, "A test of a people is how it behaves towards the old. It is easy to love children. Even tyrants and dictators make a point of being fond of children.
But the affection and care for the old, for the incurable, the helpless, are the true gold mines of a culture. So as I said, in the past when I've taught this and when my dad taught it to me, and what I assume that Heschel was really referring to was much more broadly, right? Speaking about a society and the means by which to understand when a society, a culture is healthy, when it is thriving, when it is based in the right kinds of values and the right kinds of perspectives, and to be equally aware of when those things are out of whack and when they're not functioning in the way that they ought to. And to understand that those sort of bellwethers, those indicators, are an indication of a greater sickness. And he turns the idea not so much on its head, but he presents us really with something I think quite challenging when we think about it. Because, as I said, Heschel may be speaking about a society as a whole, but really this is a statement for individuals as well. Right? All of us would understand, right? The same circumstance, for example, when dealing with a child who acts out or misbehaves or yells or screams or, wants something that is irrational or impossible to provide. To a child, we respond, generally speaking, we hope, with a certain amount of kindness, a certain amount of understanding, a certain amount of realization that the child is not in possession of the either developmental ability or the physical ability to affect their own reality in the way that we presume, at least as adults and as otherwise physically functioning human beings. But we treat them again with at least on the margin, usually with a positive kind of understanding. However, in the case of, as Heschel says, right, the old, the incurable, the helpless, we tend to have a harder time with that idea, right? The same kinds of circumstances that play out, the same cries for help, the same things that are asked for, our response tends to be much more cold because our assumption is, even with the sick person, the helpless person, that they're adults, they've lived, and therefore they are capable of taking care of themselves or understanding the irrationality of their request or whatever the moment may be. And we lose ourselves in those moments because we lose what really in our tradition is one of the most important characteristics of a healthy life and a healthy society, which is rachmanis, as they say, rachamim, of compassion. And compassion is one of these things that we throw around as a word that we think is easy, but reality is asks a great amount of us. It challenges us. To be compassionate oftentimes means that we are putting aside what our individual wants or needs may be in a particular moment. So you can imagine, as somebody who lived the last several months with another person who was in the state of both being older and in essence being incurable, and at various points being as close to helpless as a person can ultimately be, that it takes on a very personal resonance. And it challenges the sort of conceptions of how we think about our obligations, our requirements to others. And if we struggle this much with our own kin, with our own loved ones, we can understand why Heschel is so concerned on a societal level and on a cultural level. Because the way that we treat our families in our own homes and our own communities is a reflection of the way that our country and our society has built up our understanding of how we are meant to treat, as Heschel says, right? It's not just a question of age. It's a question of really one's ability to take care of themselves without assistance. And we know from the Torah, from our tradition, numerous times we are told that we have obligations beyond ourselves and beyond even our own individual families and our own individual communities. We have an obligation to something greater. God calls to us and says that we have an obligation to take care of, fundamentally, those who need assistance in various kinds of categories. And I would say, as an observation, and obviously this is only one experience, in the last several months, I witnessed both the greatest, most beautiful expression of human compassion and the antithesis, really, of what Heschel is concerned about, that sense of chesed, of loving kindness, that sense of rachamim, nurses, doctors, social workers, friends, family, all sorts of people who stretched themselves and went so far beyond in order to try to help. And at the same time, I witnessed countless examples of individuals, of bureaucracies, and ultimately speaking, of a societal decision about how we as a country are going to relate to the idea of sickness and ultimately of health. And to see how those bureaucracies, how that system of levers and gates can ultimately cause a tremendous amount of suffering and unduly. And it's not to say that each and every one of us is the responsible party, but I think one of the beauties of Jewish thought and practice and of the Torah itself and of God's commandments is the reminder to us that we are indeed obligated to each other. And the world that we build is our responsibility. So if the world around us looks the way that it does, if it functions the way that it does, if we do, in fact, as Heschel warns us, pay more attention to the smiling baby and much less attention to the person who is dying or struggling, we have to fundamentally ask ourselves, what is it that we are about? What are the foundational principles of the society that we are a part of? Are they really where they ought to be? And I'm sure that the answer to that is much more complicated than simple. I understand that anything of the nature of what we're describing, of healthcare systems on a national level, on a global level, it's not as simple as just changing the mindset. It's complicated. I understand that. But I would say that I think as a society, we have a tremendous amount of work to do to really understand what Heschel is warning us about here, to really reflect on ourselves and to say, if right, somebody were to come from another place and judge our people, our land, our world, based upon this factor alone, how we treat the old, the infirmed, the helpless, I'm not sure they would have the most positive feelings about humanity, certainly not about our country. And so I want to leave this with all of us to consider, not to have us be brokenhearted about it, not to be despondent about it, but the opposite. Heschel wrote these words all those years ago, not with the intention to cajole or to shake a finger, but to inspire and to ask ourselves again about what our priorities are. And I think that for all of us, none of us make it through life without having a loved one who needs our help. And in many cases, we're not able to actually provide that help, not because we're lacking in compassion, but because we may be across the world. We might be across the country, might be out of physical reach. But caring for and loving the people that matter to us is not so restrictive as we might think. And I think that we oftentimes give ourselves the excuse that a person is not within earshot or within close distance to do more. So for those of you that are living in this world or have lived through it or may be potentially facing it at some point in the future, to know, first of all, that it is not easy. Without a doubt, it is not easy. And it is not something to beat ourselves up over or to make ourselves feel bad about, but simply to do what we do naturally as Jews, which is to always seek a better way, to ask ourselves the hard questions and to be honest in our answers, to consider how we as individuals, as a community, as a people, as a humanity, how we value our systems, how we place our emphasis, where we decide we want to build our society's foundation. And as I said, I think I experienced many things that were inspiring and heartening and many things that left me really feeling quite sad for the world that we live in. And I hope and I pray that we can, again, individually and collectively, consider these ideas and consider even the small incremental ways that we can make an impact or an influence on the people and on the systems and the circumstances around us. So with that, I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom. And just as a pitch, a reminder again, the Heschel book, in case you ever get a chance to read it, The Insecurity of Freedom, Essays on Human Existence. If you have trouble finding it, please do let me know. I'll be happy to lend you my copy. So with that, I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom, and I'll invite Cantor Lauren back to the Bima. She's already on her way. And I'll invite everyone to please rise in body or spirit as we turn to page 586 at the very bottom, Aleinu L'Shabeach, and we'll face east. 580. Sorry, 591. Vene.
Adonai
Melech al kol
haaretz
bayom
Omahu
bayom yeh
Adonai
Adonai
echad
Ushem Ushem Ask those in mourning and those observing yahrzeit to please remain standing. Everyone else may be seated at this time. We think first of those who have passed in recent months. Miles Ambrose, Morris Dickstein, Fred Eber, Sandra Furman, Evelyn Gelb, Lucy Gladstone, Phyllis Katz, Jeanette Kopp, Audrey Lubo, Morty Lynn, Jerry Monroe, Steve Popkin, Danielle Lisa Rigg, Geraldine Rosen, Harriet Roth, Paul Silver, Marlise Silverberg, Blanche Sklar, Rita Sandra Snyder, Joan Strong Tanzilius, Virginia Tizer, and Ann Weiss. We also mark the yahrzeits that occurred during the last week for Simon Abraham, Aileen Bacon, Louis Barron, Frederick Baum, Monroe Bohm, Jean Fleischman, Selma Goldman, Michael Green, Sidney Grossman, Lois Herr, William Hesse, Irving Kirstein, Abraham Lasnik, Dorothy Metzger, Christine Nouvelle, Joseph Palladino, Jim Ritvo, Dorothy Simons, Nathan Spitzer, Ethel Tromberg, Jack Wiener, Jane Weisselberg, Betsy Wolf, Irving Zaretsky. Does anyone else have a name of someone for whom you're saying Kaddish that you'd like to share? In solidarity with those remembering their loved ones, we will rise as the mourners join me in reciting the Kaddish on page 598. Yidkadal v'yidkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayichon u'v'yomechon u'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, v'agalav v'zman kariv v'yimru Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam le'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shmei dekudsha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata. Da'amiran be'alma v'yimru Amen. Yehei shalom harabba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen. Oseh shalom imromav. Hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Pranam livracha. May every one of their memories be for a blessing. Please be seated. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Just a few quick announcements before we conclude. Before I forget, if you would, just to help out a lot, if you could bring your prayer books, your Sidurim back to where you got them from when you leave this evening, it would help Abba Josie out a great deal. A few other announcements. Services will be live streamed tomorrow at 9:30, and you're welcome to join us here in the chapel as well. Again, the service will begin at 9:30. Torah study will be on Zoom beginning at 12 o'clock. Also, to join us tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, either here in person if you have been vaccinated and have proof of vaccination, or watching streaming live as Cantor Lauren and Keelan will be presenting their concert. Anything you want to tell us about what we're expecting? All I can tell you is I heard them rehearsing before, and it sounds amazing as you'd expect. But any kind of pitch, Lauren? It's going to be great. There you go. See, she's too humble. Too humble. It's going to be great. I promise you that. So again, 6 o'clock, try to get here a few minutes early if you're coming in person so we can get everybody nice and settled before we begin. Also a reminder, this Sunday, the Women's Rosh Chodesh group will be meeting at 4:30 outdoors at a member's home. If you're interested in joining the Rosh Chodesh group, please let me know and I'll be happy to connect you with Shelley or one of the other wonderful members. Niddah Mitzvah will be meeting on Monday at 11:30. Good, okay. Contact Andrea. If you don't know Andrea, you can wave over here for more information. The Social Justice Committee will not have its regular meeting this Monday. My classes will again be on something of a hiatus probably until after the high holidays are over, but I promise they will be coming back soon. However, we do have another wonderful class that's being taught by one of our fellow members and a current rabbinical student, Alan Levin. He's been teaching, he taught one class already in a series of classes on Jewish holidays, which I hope that he'll continue through the rest of the year. But there will be two of them this month. The first one, one class that's focusing on both the month of Elul as a general overall concept and of the service of Slichot, which is almost always the Shabbat that immediately precedes the high holidays. So you're welcome to join. Just please make sure that you sign up. Also on Thursday at 7 o'clock, Dr. Steve Rosen will be doing a virtual talk and QA about his most recent book, Out on a Limb, Taking a Chance with Words. A reminder that Shabbat by the Bay, we hope, will be back again next week, weather permitting. The service itself will begin at 5:30, but the pre-service Shmooze and Tikkun Olam project will begin at 5. And also a heads up, on Tuesday, August 31st, we have another fabulous outdoor docent-led tour, this time of the Bridge Gardens and the new sculpture exhibit in Bridgehampton, which includes a bagel brunch, I'm told. But please do make sure that you purchase tickets on Eventbrite soon. Only 25 tickets total will be sold, and I think we're getting close to that figure. So please, if you're interested, join up, and I'm sure everybody will be happy to see you. So with that, I think those are all the announcements on my list. I'll make a regular weekly announcement, because I know Neil would say it. If you haven't driven by the temple recently, you really must go see it now. It's quite remarkable to see what's going on. And just to tell you that every week we are getting closer and closer to being back in our space, and the work that's being done is really remarkable. So, Neil, anything to add that I missed?
Back to that subject, but Shabbat, besides the religious content, is a social event. So I'm going to suggest that everyone bring a friend or friends next week.
Well, that's very nice. Okay, Neil, he's a very gentle pressure guy, Neil, until he's not. So if you want, bring a friend next week. Just make sure that they're vaccinated and bring their card with you. Janet, I saw a hand up. Go ahead. Oh yeah, no. Every week I will tell you. My wonderful partner in crime, Eileen, gives me a list of things, and I probably too religiously, for a pun of a term, follow that list. But yes, the annual cocktail party. You should have received your invitations in the mail if you didn't, and then also the members meeting, which is a week from this Sunday or 2 weeks from this Sunday. 2, 1. Can't see your hand so well from here, Margaret, but anyway, that's the great thing about websites. Websites will tell you all of the information that your rabbi seems to forget to know, but I would just say, as Janet makes a good point, both our cocktail party, which we will do, again, as safely as we can possibly manage, and our annual meeting are very important to the life of the congregation and to the governance and to its planning for the next year. So participation is always very, very much appreciated. And just to be clear, the annual meeting, if I'm not mistaken, will be on Zoom only. So you can participate from anywhere that you want to. But thank you, Janet, as always, keeping us very much on track. I really appreciate that. So I think that's everything for me. I hope all of you do have a wonderful Shabbat. And Cantor, we have a closing song this evening for kids. Okay, you take it away. We'll turn now to page 123 for Kiddush, and you can rise and body your spirit. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'shabbat chilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit ki hu yom techila lemikra kodesh zecher letziat Mitzrayim kivanu b'chata ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim ve'shama kodshecha ve'amaratan inchaltanu baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Again, just a reminder, if you can, bring your Sidurim, your prayer books back just where you came, and get home safe. Cool.
The good news is, though, when I was with Marty last week for the whatever that was, Sunday, so, you know, he basically runs Zoom calls with 20 president, and they have an AV guy there, and he basically told us anything that we need. Yeah, so I already put email into him this week. Because regardless of no, they punch it the next week, but if I were guessing based on what the conversation was, it'll be, yeah, you know, I think it's.
Well, why don't we virtual, but
We're not gonna, it will be, it's not gonna be like, but like Toshlik, for example, right? I was thinking Toshlik could make it something.
Isn't the purpose of them offering
Well, yes and no, there's problems with the outdoor, because basically when you try to do an outdoor service, then you run into problem with street. You know, there's no way that we're gonna have everybody come, even if it's outdoors. So, no, I thought that some of the longer meetings we've had in a while, and, no, I think, again, if I were a betting man, that would be my guess. And I told them, you know, from my perspective, we'll roll with whatever.
just so you know, Daryl showed up tonight at the Shiva.
Oh, he did? That's interesting. I didn't know what his connection was to,
There is no.
he just heard about it and showed up? That seems odd.
There was last year, I never get the Deidre went to ASI and went to one.
Ah, okay.
All right, but his service is not even recognizable.
Oh, wait, no, so he left us. Ah, because I pulled him out into all that stuff.
But it was totally fine. Even
I'm sure that was the case. I'm sure it wasn't just to you. I'm sure the whole room was probably wondering. Yeah, because that's what I tried to explain to them, that actually when it comes to a shiva, it's not that a rabbi is not necessary, right? I think everybody would generally say they'd rather have a rabbi, but the reality is what the whole purpose of it is the Kaddish, and you can say the Kaddish. Oh yeah, right.
she was instrumental in that making it.
It's true, and this is like this. Yeah. I'm sure he did. That's awesome. No, it's actually a wonderful group of people. You know, just like all people we are, you know, very hard. You know, there are a lot of them decided to be out. that was the one I did. So I assume they're, how do you get it? No, yeah, because you're going to the rubber. Yeah, what we doing order, we order, no, I think we're. Okay, no, but. That's tell them thank you for, because there was one other thing that I put on since you're having issues with other things, and now I know. Okay, fine. Yeah. Oh, it's a song. Michael and Todd? No, I saw it there. All about that. Maybe it's somebody, no, it might be somebody else. So do you want to check, Margaret, would you be able to get her back to the hotel? Oh, okay, just wanted to make sure. Okay. All right, so we'll see you tomorrow, and thank you for telling me about the. Yeah, so that's good, we can fix that for tomorrow. Interesting. All right. All right. Bob, I'll lock up at the end, so you guys don't worry about a thing, okay? I'm gonna. Love, it's been a long time since we've done that. Too long. Yeah. Wait for it.
I texted Lou and I told her deep down I wanted to be on.
Oh, I know. I mean, it's
hard.
yeah, and it's unfortunately, right?
I felt bad for her.
Yeah, but she really, I mean,